list of the scariest films of all time, they always mention the same movies. Psycho, Jaws, The Shining, The Evil Dead, Nightmare on Elm Street, The Ring, Insidious, Magic Mike. It's like, we get it, they're scary, but I'm just saying, what's the point of telling us the same list again and again? Surely it would be better to find new and exciting horror films to educate the masses. Oh, what's that? It takes time and effort. I know, BuzzFeed, it does. So sit back, keep regurgitating the wallpaper paste that you do and giving it misleading titles, and watch a master at work. With this in mind, I'm Jules for WhatCulture.com, and here are 10 of the most deranged horror films. Number 10. Deranged. Deranged is another movie based on the real-life killer Ed Gein, the Wisconsin ghoul whose dietary habits and mummified mother also inspired Psycho and the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. However, this film differs by adhering more closely to the facts and presenting the narrative in a matter-of-fact style, even having a TV reporter address the viewer directly in certain scenes. It gives the piece a tone that's much more grounded in reality, arguably making it all the more frightening as a result. In the lead role, which Christopher Walken reportedly auditioned for, Robert Blossom does a fine job as Ezra Cobb, who digs up the corpse of his mother, learns about taxidermy and starts robbing graves when he requires new materials. So, you know, similar to a story about an average upbringing in Leeds. He's also a dab hand at making furniture out of human bones, and in one sequence displays his wares to a kidnapped girl. "Just trying to show you I got talent," he tells her. And yeah, creepiness aside, dang man, building furniture out of bones, that's actually really impressive. Number 9. Don't Look Now. Don't Look Now opens with the most terrifying thing imaginable, the death of a child, which establishes the film's grim, downbeat tone. It's also the plot device that causes Julie Christie and Donald Sutherland to uproot and leave for a gloomy-looking Venice, where, for a variety of reasons, the tragedy continues to haunt their new life as they keep spotting what they think is their dead daughter. But it's not. Instead, it's a killer dwarf in a red raincoat. I'm just gonna let that hang and let you decide whether that's worth watching. A killer dwarf, red raincoat, a film with Donald Sutherland. Number 8. The Nanny. One of Hammer's most unsung films, The Nanny features a terrifying performance from Bette Davis, who plays a governess that murders kids. Sounds like a hoot. Her latest ward is Joey, an emotionally disturbed 10-year-old who's just returned from a children's home because, well, he casually drowned his own sister. Imagine Joey's surprise when he returns home to find this creepy jowl scowler trying to dote on him. Needless to say, he rebels, little realising that Davis is not somebody you want to trifle with. I mean, have you seen her? I mean, when has she said no to a trifle, if you know what I'm saying? I don't want to give too much away, so let's just say that her preferred method of punishment is a short, sharp shock involving water that rivals even my foreplay shenanigans. Number 7. Cannibal Holocaust. "Those who filmed it were devoured alive by cannibals," shrieks the no-nonsense tagline, blithely insinuating that the cannibals then had to cut together the film and then mail the tapes to Hollywood, seeing as everyone who worked on it is apparently dead. It's a film, shockingly, about cannibals and their people-munching persuasions. The footage is all handheld and grainy and contains some bloody brutal scenes of animal abuse and physical torture, the likes of which have not really been topped since. Watch it if you've got a strong stomach or like the sight of your own sick. Number 6. Red, White and Blue. This film, which posed as a slasher revenge title, surprised many with its graphic content and visceral nature when it was released back in 2010. Centering its plot around a promiscuous young woman called Erica who sexually transmits HIV to a man who then decides to kidnap her. What follows is a brutal rampage by Erica's friend Nate, a war veteran who will stop at nothing to bring her back. It's kind of like Taken, but with less throat chops, and will leave you truly wondering whether or not the psychotic actions taken by Nate are really done out of care for his friend, or out of his hatred for a society that shunned him. Number 5. My Little Lie. Okay, here's the pitch. It's 5 people in a house for an entire movie. Their moves are recorded by hidden cameras, and if any of them decide to leave, they forfeit $1 million prize money. And that's it. It doesn't sound really exciting, does it? But Mark Evans's My Little Lie skillfully sidesteps these danger zones and uses the film to explore the dark side of reality TV, resulting in one of the nastiest things you've ever seen this side of my search history. You see, one member in the group turns out to be a killer, and the show is actually a snuff movie being streamed on the internet. Oh yeah, let the bloodshed begin. Number 4. Funny Games. Home invasion films are perfect horror fodder. The thought of somebody breaking into your private space and torturing you is a great way to unhinge audiences. 1997's Funny Games looked to expand on this horror subgenre by providing a plot which was rife with fourth-wall breaking moments, a pair of killers who are charismatic and funny, and some of the most tense, realistic scenes of violence you can imagine. The story revolves around a family who allow 2 young men into their house and then who refuse to leave. The pair then tell the family that they're going to play a little game, and they need need to bet whether or not they'll be alive by 9 a.m. tomorrow. What follows is pure tension and violence. There's a self-awareness to the film that's surreal but works into the psychotic projections of the young men, going so far as to rewind a good portion of the film because they didn't like how it ended. It's a real brain-turner for sure, but one that makes for a truly entertaining watch. Number 3. Martin. Martin is George A. Romero's lost masterpiece, the movie that's overshadowed by the Living Dead films but is well worth digging up, as it's one of his best structured, best shots and most entertaining films. It's also one of his most disturbing. In the opening sequence, the eponymous character who believes himself to be a vampire stalks a woman on a train, drugs her, and then drinks her blood. Told through a mix of confusing monochromatic fantasies and Martin's real life, he mimics and openly confesses his vampiric lifestyle. But when plastic fangs prove ineffective at cutting the mustard, he resorts to razor blades, and then things begin to escalate quickly, resulting in a very bitey rape scene that's hard to watch. Number 2. Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer. Given $100,000 to make a horror movie, John McNaughton asked himself a very simple question: what's really scary and also really cheap? So McNaughton looked to real life for inspiration and settled on the story of Henry Lee Lucas. Lucas was a lowlife who, along with his pal Otis, claimed to have murdered more than 200 people. So together with playwright Richard Farr, McNaughton told a fictionalized account of his life, careful to emphasize Henry's lack of empathy in order to drive the horror home. One of the most disturbing scenes, which was heavily edited in the UK original release, features Henry and Otis watching a videotape of themselves at work, commenting on the events on screen as they terrorize a family. It's kind of like a Mystery Science Theatre segment, but with more murder and better commentary. Snap. Number 1. Peeping Tom. Peeping Tom opened shortly before Psycho in the UK and promptly wrecked its director's career. Here he was directing a sleazy film about a photographer who murders women and then captures their expressions on film. It may involve a psychopathic killer, but Powell's film couldn't be more different from Psycho. It's a cold, clinical picture that never skimps on the portrayal of London's seamier side. The very first scene shows the main character picking up and then murdering a prostitute, which is very different from Psycho's controversial shots of Janet Leigh in her underwear. Grim and unrelenting, this is by no means a fun picture, but it does seem to have had an influence on Hitchcock's later career. Returning to London in 1972 to shoot Frenzy, old Hitchy Boy not only cast Anna Massey, Peeping Tom's lead actress, but when it came to staging the first murder, Hitch showed it in full close-up.